again, as I said yesterday, welcome to all of you. It really is a pleasure for us to have you here with us. And thank you for coming out early on a Sunday morning for this discussion. We begin with a discussion of diversity and inclusion at the college and more broadly, in part because it reflects what we strive to be as a community. And that sense of aspiration grows out of our identification as an institution related to the United Methodist Church. And I say that for this reason. The governing documents and principles of the United Methodist Church call on all of its organizations, whether they're the churches, the colleges, the K through 12 Methodist schools, doesn't matter the particular identity and mission of that organization, but all of us who affiliate with the United Methodist Church are called upon to create communities that are welcoming, mutually supportive, and committed to the principles that everyone who comes in the door is welcome so long as they share a commitment of goodwill and a sense of community and a commitment to helping build that community. So any characterization beyond that simply becomes a mark of individual identity that we respect, we welcome, we appreciate, and we work together on behalf of a larger goal and build a greater sense of community. For the last few years, we have been very active in pursuing some of those goals and making them more prominent in the life of the college, and that has been led by Dr. Patty Woodward-Young and Walter Lane as they have chaired our Diversity and Inclusion Steering Committee these last few years. We have a long way to go, and we recognize that. But as you come into Simpson College, we want to share with you where we think we're doing some things well and help you think us about areas where we can do better. And there aren't many, and we know that, but we are committed to making this the kind of community that people can join and be a part of because we respect one another, we appreciate one another's contributions, and we approach our work out of a sense of goodwill and recognize in every one of us the fundamental humanity that comes from being a member of this community. Thank you all very much. I will stop and ask our panelists to go along from here. Thanks for being here this morning.
Good morning. My name is Rich Davis. I work in student development. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about, as it says on the schedule, inclusion and diversity and those sorts of things. I know that the last day or last several days have been kind of crazy for you all, and you're probably tired, you're thinking of Sunday morning, you'd rather be sleeping in, but we feel that this is a really incredibly important conversation for us to have. There are a couple of ground rules I want to make sure that we keep in mind before we start our conversation. We're a community of respect, and we need to respect everybody in our community. So as you're given the opportunity to ask questions of our fine panelists up here, please be respectful of that. But also, don't hesitate to ask hard questions. I think they're looking forward to hard questions, and we'll give you very honest answers of what it means to be a student here on this campus when you identify in a particular way or one way or another. So keep that in mind. So we'll start off with Lewis. If you want to start off, introduce yourself, your name, your major, hometown, how you identify, what you're involved with, whatever you feel is important for the group to know.
Sure. I'm Lewis Cox. I'm a junior here, double major in religion and psychology. I'm involved with religious life, community, and Greek life, and I'm a sexual assault response advocate here on Simpson's campus. I identify as a cisgendered, straight, white Christian male, and I am from Urbandale, Iowa.
I see you here shortly. I was in Pennsylvania. I'm from Colorado. I am a white straight thank you for being here.
My name is Pierce Carey. I'm originally from Salina, Kansas. I major in health services leadership and political science. I'm the former vice president of the student body and the current president of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity here on campus. I identify as a gay man of color.
Hello, my name is Jalen. I'm a sophomore here on campus. I am majoring in religion and political science. I'm a CA and an SC leader, and I'm a first-generation college student, and I identify as a cisgendered mixed-race woman.
Hello everyone, my name is Cecilia Martinez and I'm a senior. I'm majoring in political science and minoring in Latin American studies and philosophy. I'm the current vice president of the student body. I'm a member of Greek life. I identify as a queer DACA student. They, them pronouns.
Hi, I'm Val Wilson. I'm a senior majoring in biochemistry and religion. I am president of the Religious Life community and president of Pan-Hellenic Council here on campus. I identify as a Hindu woman with a disability.
Hi, I'm Em Leonard. I am originally from Wisconsin. I am a sophomore and I'm majoring in public relations and minoring in theater. I am a sexual assault response advocate on campus and president of Pride. I identify as a gay trans man, he, him pronouns.
Hello, my name is Daphne. I'm a senior. I'm studying elementary education. I'm an international student from Mexico. I'm the president of the International Student Organization. I'm a member of Latinos Unidos and the Multicultural Student Alliance, and I identify as a straight woman.
All right, so these are all students here, as they said, and not long ago they were sitting in your seats. And this is your opportunity to ask any questions that you may want of these particular students. This is also one of the few opportunities you're going to get to use your phone when somebody is allowing you to be in a presentation like this. So, if you want to text any question that you have to this number. We'll leave this number up here the entire time so that you can text any questions you have. So that you also know, I'm not collecting phone numbers, it's coming to my phone, but it's not my personal phone. When this is done, that number is going to go away. So I'm not collecting phone numbers, I'm not going to hunt down phone numbers, any of that sorts of things. So please feel free to ask any questions. So with that in mind, I'll ask the first question before anything probably comes in. Some of you identified as cisgender. What does cisgender refer to and why should I care?
So cisgender just means that you identify with the same sex that you were born with. So like I said, I'm a gay man of color. I was born as a male. It was my sex when I was born, and that's what I identify as now. So that's what cisgender means.
All right. We're here on a Sunday morning when I'm sure some of our students should be or feel like they should be in church. Why is it more important to be here? Or should they even really care about being here on a Sunday morning when they should be in church?
So personally, diversity and inclusion and a commitment to justice is really important to me and my faith. I believe that everybody has inherent divinity, and as a result, I need to acknowledge that in them, and this is part of that.
So when I grow up big and tall, I want to be a pastor in the United Methodist Church, and I chose to be here this Sunday morning. I think, first of all, there are a lot of religious communities that don't practice only on Sunday mornings, but also I see an interest and a passion for diversity and inclusion as not separate from my personal faith tradition, but actually as part of that.
Okay, first question that came in. What does being a Sarah mean, and what duties does it entail?
Being a sexual assault response advocate on Simpson's campus means that we are a confidential source of support for survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence and dating violence and gender violence. So what being confidential means is that we actually can't even be subpoenaed to court. So that's kind of a fun fact about Sarah's. But beyond that, we operate a 24/7 call line that is always operated while school is in session by a student. So there's a student advocate that will pick up that phone 24/7. And we encourage you to call that. And then in addition, we are resources in person as well. And I don't know if Em wanted to say anything more.
Just another side note is Sarah's are also a resource, like if you're going through court proceedings or even just reporting to Title IX on campus, we are allowed to be in the room and just be support there for you.
Okay, questions are starting to roll in, which is great. How easy is it to date for queers on campus? Do you usually have to go off campus to find people to date?
I don't know, I guess it's just the size of the campus, I don't know. I'm like, there's potential always, just like who you are gonna like be interested in. I think that's just the reality for everybody, but we are also just a really small campus. Everyone really just knows each other. Like you date one person, everyone's gonna know, and then like it's a whole thing. So I know people like sometimes, yeah, like so we're like we're by Drake or near Des Moines, you know, people go other places or, you know, they still have like whoever they were dating from high school or it's long distance. It's just, I don't know, it's all right, I guess.
I've been out since my freshman year here at Simpson, and I've never really dated anybody here at Simpson. My current boyfriend just moved back to Iowa from Alaska, so yeah, he's not even in college. So I never had luck finding a boyfriend here, but like, there's definitely people on campus that practice love the same way you do. So I'm not saying that you won't find it. I'm just saying I didn't have any luck doing that.
Okay, this question is probably for Alex. How accessible is Simpson's campus, really?
So, I could say that it's not perfect. There are a lot of areas of campus, like even today, in this theater, I had to go back around the building to get in and get on stage here, and then I can need some help getting up on the stairs to get to the group discussion later. So it's not perfect, but what I found is that if you ask people like security or rich, they're always willing to jump in and help out with whatever you need.
Awesome. Next question. What backlash do you face as people of color, queer people, transgender, and disabled? What social difficulties have these identities presented? They're deep, really deep questions.
So as a person of color, there are obviously challenges. We live in a very small town in Iowa, but I also went to high school in a very small town in Iowa where I was the only person of color. So at Simpson, for me at least, it was almost a culture shock, which sounds crazy to people who come from really big places, because people who come from big places think this is a very white, very Christian place. But I think at Simpson there is a lot, it's kind of like with any other identity that you hold. If you're a person of color and you want to engage with other people of color, like there are organizations and things on campus that can help you do that. I won't sit here and say that it's perfect. We have challenges, but I think even just having things like this panel and we have discussions in class and like we have those hard discussions instead of just like pretending like color doesn't exist and we can't see color. Like we don't do that here. We address those problems head on more.
I can say kind of like Jalen, I came from a really small town, and so I have fallen into a crowd now where it's like, where I'm very accepted and I really like the place I am. Granted to say not everyone on campus is like that, and you have to be aware of that.
Yeah, I was surprised. I'm from Kansas, so another pretty conservative place, but here at Simpson I found a home. I've been elected to leadership positions all over campus. Like I said, I'm the current president of SAE. We're lucky enough to be one of the biggest fraternities on campus. So we have a lot of diversity within the house, which I'm very, very excited about. So even though that most of them, you know, aren't men of color or most of them are not gay, they still accept me and make me feel like I'm at home when I go back to SAE every night. And then the campus as well has been extremely inviting. So even though it looks like there's not a lot of diversity at Simpson and it is a very white school, the people that you find here are, you know, the Iowa nice that you expect and really are very comforting and very welcoming of people of diverse backgrounds.
I would say our disability to go, you thought definitely would be accepting. The one thing I would say is be totally honest, people will fake it with people with disabilities and kind of just pretend not to care sometimes. And it's like to say, yes, there are so many different kinds of disabilities, but really get to know those individuals. Because I can tell you that we all have something important to contribute, and I think you'll find some inspiration.
Yeah, so like to add to that, I mean, we're also, yeah, like again, open to like if you need that support system and you need that group that's there and it maybe doesn't exist, like there's a group already, you know, trying to make it, you can make your own organization for however you identify. You know, like as we were saying before, there's a lot of different organizations on campus and things like that. But not always, again, like Cup here said, just like join something that interests you and you'll find, you know, the people there that are going to be willing to support you. So like in my personal experience, with like my immigration status and things like that, so obviously like questions and things like that, but as on a whole, I think the administration has been really supportive and like with all the changes going on and things like that, and always making sure that like the policies are good and like students are kept safe and things like that. So just don't be afraid to try and like reach out to somebody if you think that there's an issue, especially student government, if you maybe, you know, want those advocates to really like fight for you.
Go ahead, Val.
So my disability is neurological, which means that some days it's visible and some days it's not. I have to go to quite a few like doctor's appointments to keep an eye on it. But what I have found, there is a little bit of like judgment that happens, I guess, on days where I like need to use a cane and people are like, you didn't need that yesterday, why do you need it today? But all of my professors have been super supportive. I have never, ever, ever faced any sort of judgment or not letting me go to like Iowa City when I need to, things like that. So all of the professors have been super supportive, but other people, as we all are still learning.
Okay, this next question is probably for Lewis and Val. With so many strong Christian values here, how would you tolerate the viewpoint of a Satanist?
We would tolerate it just fine. I don't know. We're really accepting of, sorry, Lewis, we're really accepting of any faith tradition and whatever that practice looks like. On our current RLC staff, we have 2 pagans. We have quite a few different things, actually. I would say that however you practice, however you identify it in your faith tradition, it's welcome here, and there's a space to engage with it, so.
Yeah, I want to also add that the religious life community can sometimes get a rep for, I don't know, like narrowly defining religion, and that's a space for everyone. That's a space for Satanists, that's a space for nuns with an O, and nuns with a U if we have any here. That's a space for Christians, that's a space for pagans, that's a space for any faith identity, and we welcome that and cherish that a lot. So I second everything Val said, and also just want to add that religious life community is a place for you regardless of how you identify.
And just to add, I identify as atheist, and religious life community is one of the places that I have kind of found a home on this community. When I came into college, I had a very almost negative viewpoint towards religion, and I didn't understand why we were reading Bible passages the first day we got here. I was like, what's going on? And then the more that you spend time around this community, you realize that even if we don't all share the same faith, which is exemplified even just up here with Val as our RLC president, that we share the same values in a lot of ways. We care about service and community. So whether you're a Satanist or a Hindu or an atheist, those are the values that RLC has, and I think that that's really important.
I'm a Christian, and I would say that really my beliefs, I love people, and I can guarantee you that not everybody here is gonna agree on every single thing, but you'll find out here in college that the world is a lot bigger than just you. And the biggest way you can have an impact in the world that just divides and takes people down is to allow other people that stand that way and that will change the world. Don't underestimate that.
I just want to say something real quick. I identify as a Christian, and at my house, like my family is very religious. And so when I came here, just like Jalen said, my first impression was like, oh, this is a small, white Christian school. But then you realize that people are very different, and they come from really diverse backgrounds and stories. And so I just want to challenge, you're going to find hard conversations everywhere in your classes, in the hallways, meeting new people. Don't turn around, don't turn away. Conversation is a point where you start and where you get educated and where you learn. And it's a great opportunity. I hang a lot with students from different countries, so they come with different religions, different traditions. And I've learned so much, and I wouldn't change that. And I'm so lucky that I get to meet new people and learn new things. So just whenever you have a hard conversation, just go through it, get yourself educated, and don't just ignore it.
All right. How do you feel about the use of derogatory terms, either ironic or serious?
I guess, I mean, obviously, I think there's like some, agreed upon terms that people don't use anymore, but so for example, queer, identify as queer. There's some people who consider that to be a derogatory term for themselves, and so there's sort of a split in the community depending, there's people say you shouldn't use it, other people are like, yes, that's my identity, and things like that. And so I think just respecting that, and so if there's a term that you want to use for yourself and you're comfortable with that, go ahead, and then just know that maybe not everyone's gonna be comfortable with it, and don't put terms on people. I mean, I know my friends and I will kind of joke around with each other and say some not nice words, but we understand where that's coming from, and we understand that it's coming from almost a place of coping, you use humor to cope with hard situations, and so oh yeah, they used to call me that in high school, so camaraderie, it's a term of endearment with friends, but that doesn't mean that just because you hear one person say that around you, or one person gives you permission to say it, that doesn't mean you can just go around yelling it. So just being just very conscious of that, and just understanding who's in the room and who you're around and things like that. I mean, obviously don't use them in private either.
I also think that it's important when we're talking about slurs to realize that even under these identities that we hold, there's no one true thing all the time. So for me, when like the N-word comes up in songs, like that makes me really uncomfortable when people like sing along to it and things like that. But I know that I have friends of color that like that doesn't bother them at all, and they've never thought about it, and they're like, yeah, all my white friends do that. So I think that we just have to remember too that like, as much as we want it to be like a black and white issue where there's a list of words that we never say and we're all perfect and we're never going to say them, that's not reality. And also understanding that college, more than anything, is a place to grow and learn. So if there's a word you've been using your whole life, and then you get to college and you realize like, oh, there are people that really don't like that word, like learning what that means and why that's important to them, I think is really an important part of college.
Okay, this question can really go to probably anybody, and might apply to a lot of different things. I'm a Colorado kid. How do I get rid of the weed stereotype?
I think that's really hard. I mean, I think we grew up in a generation that like used Colorado as such, so sorry, I don't know. I'm not very much help there. But I think that in like relating to who I am and stuff, like the stereotypes that come with being black or being gay, like the way I shake those off is, I mean, some of them are true about who I am as a person, but really just, I guess, don't try to generalize people just because you meet, somebody that identifies as being gay or that somebody who's a minority. You shouldn't like group them together with who like what their back or who you perceive them to be, I guess. So really, can't really help you with the Colorado weed thing very well. But as far as other identities and other diverse backgrounds, just make sure that like when you're talking to people of diversity that you're not trying to like stereotype them right away.
Yeah, because it is, we do have people from like so many different states, and so like your own state has like its own culture. So like, it is something that happens, we have people like from Texas, and like, when you ride horses at one time, like that's cool. Like, no, but again, yeah, it's like learning who each person is, and just maybe just like asking questions like, oh, do you only think about Colorado as a weed state? Well, like go read about Colorado, or like ask a person like, well, what do you do? And like, things like that.
Yeah, I think stereotypes is a very hard thing to work with because that's something that you have to work within yourself and not just like try to get rid of stereotypes that people have about you. So I would say just like don't stereotype people, get to know them. Once again, conversation is the place to start, so just say hi and then start to get to know them and you'll find out that they're probably not what you think they're going to be. People might surprise you.
Awesome. Lewis, this one's for you specifically.
Oh boy.
They called you out by name.
Good.
Have you ever been in a situation where you maybe disagreed with a homosexual relationship and you felt like you were pushed aside? Sometimes I feel like you can't respectfully disagree with homosexuality without being seen as the enemy.
Yeah, good question. I think this comes from kind of this climate that we sometimes fall into of being in opposite sides, right? And college, I think, on a broader stance, beyond even just this example, is an opportunity to be in dialogue. It's an opportunity to ask questions legitimately and sincerely. What I was actually kind of thinking of stepping into the last two questions and saying, my experience has been that people respond well to honest questions. To honest questions like, hey, I don't know like what's an appropriate pronoun for you, like can you help me figure that out? Like I don't know how to react when you say this, like I disagree with this statement, can we talk about that? And also understanding that like, you don't have to convince people to join your side or whatever, right? Like we are a diverse population, both ideologically and religiously. And I think even in that, what's interesting about that question, to me at least, is that there's this implication that because I am Christian, I don't like homosexual relationships. And I think even that is like an opportunity for me and whoever asked this to be in dialogue of like, what if that isn't true, right? Like what if I, as a Christian, actually am really supportive of people of the LGBT community and want to love on them and care for them as well. So I don't know how comprehensive that answer really was, but I think college is an opportunity to ask honest questions, and people have responded really well, to me at least, when I have said like, look, I don't know this, like help me. please. Because I'm just unaware. So, yeah.
I would 100% echo what was said. And I apologize again for acting on everything. But what are you gonna do with that? If you disagree, are you gonna use that to divide and say that you can't hang out with people that have different views than you? Or are you gonna come together? You know what? I think really underlying piece of, are you still going to love no matter what you do is a big key here.
Anybody else? You all good? All right, next question. Slightly changing direction a little bit. How do I become a part of Sarah, and what are the repercussions for sexual assault?
Well, I am a brand new Sarah. I actually just got done with my training last week. There'll come a point where I believe they send out emails, or else, and also like the Sarah page on Facebook, and it'll have like notifications saying that they're looking for people who want to become Sarahs, and you fill out that application, and there's an interview process, and yeah.
Yeah, so those seem to come out about April, but before then, there's another program that's kind of similar called Mentors in Violence Prevention, and anybody can be involved in that. There are trainings that are occurring sometime that they'll be advertised for sure. And that is a training to actually lead these interactive courses surrounding gender violence and sexual assault and consent and alcohol and all these other all these other things that covers. So that's a great way to kind of get plugged in and started, even this semester, leading those Mentors in Violence Prevention trainings. The question about what are the repercussions of sexual assault, I will try to not answer in a 3-hour lecture right now, but for survivors of sexual assault, that's incredibly traumatizing, both on the brain and on their social interactions and all sorts of things, but also that is rooted in the culture that we participate in, right? Like, we decide what music to listen to and what kind of implications that music has. And one of the really cool things about Simpson in this Welcome Week is a program that's actually going to be later today that I'm not going to spoil too much, but I think answers this question pretty well. There's a theatrical performance in this room called It's On Us that I ask you all to kind of really take in and consider, and there will be a discussion group after that that I think will sort of scratch the surface of that question a little more.
Go ahead.
Another thing is, if you were referring to repercussions for the person who committed the assault, there's a lot that goes into that, and it also depends on who the victim reports to and if the victim wants to report, so that's really complicated and not really something we can explain quickly.
Good answers. Some of you guys talked about being gay, but still involved in student government, Greek life, and other things. How has Simpson enabled you to be yourself, and has there been much struggle getting to this point?
Like I said, I'm the former vice president of the student body for Cecilia, and then the president of SAE here on campus. I thought one of the question you guys asked Lewis was really interesting. You know, like I said, my chapter is the biggest chapter on campus as far as male Greek life goes, and so we do have a diverse amount of opinion. But the one thing that I can say really helped me is whether it was the SGA or SAE, Even people who disagreed with me, who disagreed with me being gay or anything like that, we found a way to work together and work through that and accomplish really good things, both at my time at the SGA and also my time now as president of SAE. So feel free to get involved and challenge yourself and challenge other people with diversity and whatnot. But at least in my experience, it's been really a really good experience to work together with people who don't have the same views as me, who don't love like me, who don't look like me, to really accomplish really good things all over campus.
Yeah, and so I think just like how people have stereotypes, I think about people, there's stereotypes about certain organizations and things like that. So like RLC is there's people think about it a certain way, people think about Greek life a certain way. And so I just really encourage, again, just go out, actually meet the people. So I'm a member of Sigma Lambda Gamma, and so we're the first multicultural sorority on campus. And so, and the values that are expressed in all of these different Greek organizations are really positive. I think there's a really underlying commonality of service and community and things like that going on. And then, that's how you meet your people and things like that. And just Simpson as a whole, just really, we don't tolerate, any sort of discrimination. And again, we have been fighting, maybe imperfectly, maybe perfectly, I don't know, probably not perfectly, but we've tried, again, this is the third year we've done this panel and it has evolved tremendously. I was a part of the very first panel that we did as a part of the Welcome Week, because before it was just a student event where it was similar, it was an Ask Me Anything panel, and yeah, same sort of format, but then we decided, as we were talking more about what diversity and inclusion and community means to Simpson, we decided, well, we really want people to understand that from the beginning. As soon as they step foot on campus, we want them to know that this is something that is important to everybody here. And so this will hopefully continue on for many years and things like that.
And I think it's important too, we throw around the word community and family a lot here, you'll notice. And I'm sure it seems super cheesy, but just wait, you'll get it. But something that I wanted to add to this is that when we say community and family and things like that, we don't just mean the people who fit into the box that looks like that. We really mean we are a community who supports people of color and undocumented people and people who identify as LGBT. We aren't just a community who supports you if you're doing something perfect to help us. We're a community that supports each other in every aspect of our identity. So I think that's really important to keep in mind.
All right, next question. I'm an atheist. If someone is judging me for not going to church, how do I respond respectfully?
What's up?